Well, Mark, when you think back on your time with the fire department, how did it all start? What made you interested in becoming a firefighter?
Well, I think it started, shortly after I got married. I had a couple of buddies who were on the fire department. I never really had designs on joining the department, but two of my good friends were on the department, and Kurt Peters was the chief at the time, and I bugged him a couple of times. In those days, there was no formal hiring process. I think I caught him on a weak moment one day at the post office, and he says, well, come to drill that night, and I came, and here I am. So I never really had designs on being a firefighter, but you know how it goes. Your friends get involved, and you get involved, and they're long gone, and I'm still here, so what do you know, eh?
What's your most memorable experience in all this time, 3 decades? What stands out for you?
You know, I don't know if I have a particular call. I kind of figured somebody would ask that question. I think I have a couple of... One thing is when Katrina happened. My wife and I have been to New Orleans a number of times, and we really liked the area. And when it happened, I sat down at the fire hall one day, and I says, look, we could do something for these guys. So I suggested maybe we see if we could do some help with firefighters down there. And so everybody in the fire department's kind of looking at me, and I'm thinking, I'm not getting a very good response to this thing. And then I says, well, do we show of hands of who'd be involved? I think every guy's hand went up. And we landed up, I think, sending 16 guys down there they weren't all there for 2 weeks. Some of the guys were there for 2 weeks, and we only worked on firefighters' homes in the area. That was a pretty neat thing. I mean, it's people taking time of their lives to go, to people they don't even know. I think that's kind of the mentality we have on the fire department. Most fire departments would have that. It's kind of that community type thing. The other neat thing is I've got 3 sons and a son-in-law, and my son-in-law has since left, but all of them joined the fire department. That was pretty neat, and I never asked any of them to join. They came and kind of applied. My son-in-law being the last one, although he's since gone back to the military, so he's not here anymore. But to go on a fire call and all your boys are there, I mean, they're no different than anybody else, but yeah, it's kind of neat. They're following your footsteps. That's neat. I mean, we got a great bunch of guys here, and it's the camaraderie you make. Friends you just would never make on the street, right? I'm good friends with guys that are 25 years younger than me. I mean, there's no reason why we would socialize together, right? But but on the fire department, you're all the same, right? So it's neat.
When did you realize that you wanted to be chief?
Oh, boy, I don't know if I'd have that answer. I mean, I was an officer. Kurt Loewen was a chief before me. He was in a unique situation, similar to Kurt Peters before him. Both business owners could get away from work when they had to. I guess in a way I was kind of a natural choice because I was one of the officers who had his own business that could get away during the day. Because there's a lot of just little things you have to do during the day, phone calls, meetings, what have you. I don't know if I really ever had a specific, maybe a guy sits in the back room one day and says, I could do a better job than that guy. And I don't know if I actually did that, but I'm sure there's guys in the department here that have been here for 5-10 years thinking, these old guys, they need to leave because we've got great ideas we could implement. And I think maybe that's one of the motivating factors to get me to leave, that I don't want to step in the way of people that want to make progress here.
So how has firefighting changed in those 35 years that you've been on the fire department here in Steinbach?
Well, when I joined, basically, I showed up at a fire hall, and I was a member of the fire department, and we just, one day at a grass fire, I was handed a hose and said, put it out, and, I drove truck a few times, and the guy says, get over here and run the truck, and so you kind of learn as you went. Today, we go through an interview process, we send them through a physical, they got to get doctor's reports, all that stuff. Then we train, and we probably have them in training for about 2 years before they're actually frontline firefighters. So and they get tested by the province, both a written and a practical test. That's fairly intense. So the training is the big part, absolutely.
Mark, what challenges do you see ahead for the person who's going to succeed you in this position?
Well, boy, we think in the last 10 years, yeah, in the last number of years that we've really moved ahead in the department. Workplace health and safety. Don Smith has been really involved in implementing a lot of that stuff in the city, which we've put a lot of that in the fire department. It's the little things, the pre-planning. As an example, maybe a fire chief or an inspector should come into my business one day and we should do a walkthrough, and they can tell me I've got some hazards kicking around that I should clean up, and get a bit of a floor plan of the building, so if they have a fire call at 3 a.m, they know what the place looks like. When you drive up and down Main Street, there used to be a time that you knew every building, who owned it, who worked in it, and so on. That's changed. Somebody may be owning a business in town for the last 10 years, but it's only in a rented building. We get a fire call there at 3 a.m. We don't know who to call. Nobody even knows who the guy is who owns the building. That kind of information we'd love to have, and that takes a lot of time. As volunteers, we just don't have time for that. Even employee, what's the right word? Evaluations. I mean, that's a big, time-consuming thing, and those are the kinds of things a full-time guy would do. It's that whole management side of the business of the fire department. The firefighting part of it, I think we do a great job. It's that management side that I think needs to go to the next level. I know the city would prefer not to have a full-time firefighter, or a fire chief. Is going to cost them a bunch of money, but I think it's just, when I look at the guys that are below me, I think many of them are very capable, but I don't know if they have the type of job where they could leave during the day and do those kinds of things. And we think and not just myself, but my deputies and captains, I think they see some of the things that need to be done, and from our point of view, it's only somebody who's going to be here full-time that can do that. Also, we do a fairly intensive training program. Even fire drills, we meet twice a month. We're 40 guys sitting here looking for entertainment, and when I say that is, what are we going to do for fire drill? What are we going to learn today? That's all done by guys that are volunteers on the department, and they get pretty burnt out. Like, it's fairly, I got to teach a class every 2 weeks for 40 guys, and a lot of these guys have been here for 15, 20 years, and we got to teach them something new and exciting, and because they're taking time out of their lives to come here and learn. Now we have to have something to teach them, and there's a lot of good stuff out there, but it takes a lot of time to prepare that and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of the non-firefighting side of it that can be fairly time-consuming, that we just don't have the time for right now.
So what's Mark Loewen going to be doing without a pager on his hip?
Well, actually, that's the thing. I'm actually stepping down as fire chief, but I think I'm going to stay in the fire department. I joined this place to fight fires and drive the fire truck, and they say the problem we have was we don't have enough old guys that stay around. Maybe, I don't know what I want to say, mentoring or whatever, but I think I still have something to contribute here. But I want to sit in the back of the room and not have any responsibility other than the firefighting. And I've had my own business for 40 years. I've run this place. It's just always you're dealing with people and management, and I just don't want to do as much of that anymore. At work, my sons are taking over, so time's passing on. I need to just enjoy it. And I enjoy the fire department. I don't want to leave it. I just don't want to manage it anymore.